This is a choice that has been given to not only the nation that we reside in, but any nation upon this globe. They have a choice to walk in the way that God would have them to walk in, or to walk in the way that their flesh would dictate moment by moment. And there is no doubt that a great majority in this country has made the willing choice to follow after things that are, quote, acceptable today, but in reality were not accepted years and years ago. I've mentioned this statement so many times you probably can memorize it, and that's probably good, because there are certain statements you need to memorize. But Francis Schaeffer, the dean from Dallas Theological years ago, said this. He said that what was unthinkable yesterday has become thinkable today. That's right. And by tomorrow will be ordinary and commonplace. If Schaeffer were alive today, he'd be totally amazed. He died in the late 1960s, and of course, everything was coming to a head then. Yeah. And look at how much we have accepted today. We had the Coxes over on Friday, and they were just glorifying in the fact that our house was so clean, but they didn't realize it took us 9 days to do it. But the fact is, I'm just kidding. No. Jonathan made dessert. Jonathan, where are you? Right here. Did you make dessert? It was good. Yeah. Some of it's right here this morning. Yeah. And we were talking about types of music, and I guess that Brenda likes Peter, Paul, and Mary. Liked Peter, Paul, and Mary. And she said that she'd attended a concert of theirs years later, after the 60s, obviously, and they were still spouting off their socialist, communist rhetoric at these concerts. And Brenda was saying that, well, the dingbats from the 60s grew up. And we don't believe that junk, that idealistic junk anymore. And they were at this concert, 25, 30 years later, spouting off the same junk they were spouting off in 1963. And they didn't realize that while they didn't grow up logically, the crowd that originally listened to them had. Listen, I'll tell you what America needs. We need a bunch of people to just grow up. And stop being spoon-fed by the media and by the elitists out there that just simply tell you, here's what you believe. And just keep spoon-feeding it to you. Listen, there is a statement that was bandied about in the 1960s that I understand the original meaning of it was bad, but I think we can change it for good. Question authority. That's right. And I think the principle is from the Bible where it says, prove all things, hold fast to that which is only true. And listen, the point is, if someone tells you something, whether it be from this pulpit or from one of the alphabet channels on cable news networks or whatever, question it. Right. Don't just say, did you hear what happened? I heard it on Katie Couric.
Must be true.
Yes. Did you hear what Brian Williams said on the NBC Evening News? Whoa. Listen. Don't you understand? I'm sure you all do here in our church, but there's an agenda out there. And there's no doubt that's starting to come out now that it is very clear that the vast majority of the journalists and the vast majority of the commentators are all left-leaning. No. Oh, I know, it's a shocking thing, but that's the way it is. No, not Rachel Maddow, and not Keith Olbermann. Or Ed Schultz or any of those other dingbats. But the fact is, and you know what? I don't have a problem if they just come out and say, hey, this network is left-leaning. Amen. Don't present it as straight down the line news. It's just commentary. You know what? By definition, a journalist is somebody who just conveys the news. They're not supposed to editorialize either way, whether to the right or to the left. And I was doing it for your benefit. But anyway, for the right or to the left. And what's happening today is you're getting the news and then you're getting an editorializing. That is an opinion. If you're a journalist, by definition, you can't do that. Now this is why, and it's funny, that these same liberals will bellyache about Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin. They'll say, well, they are giving their opinion. They're not journalists. That's right. They are commentators. Right. And if you're going to listen to Ed Schultz, expect to get liberal claptrap. I'm not offended by that. You know why? Because I know what to expect from Ed Schultz. Right. You should know what to expect from Mark Levin. You should know what to expect when you listen to Michael Savage. Oh. The fundamentalist of the airwaves, Mark Levin, and some of these other, you should know what to expect. But don't listen to one of those guys and think, well, they need to just be giving the news right down the middle. No. If they're a conservative, they're going to give it to you from a conservative perspective. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the right perspective. Every once in a while, the liberals will fall on truth, accidentally, but it happens occasionally, but not very often. But there is no doubt in my mind that not only are the unsaved this way, but I believe Christians are just not ashamed of sin anymore. You know, what we used to blush at is so common today, we don't blush at it anymore. There's a standard in many churches about dress. And I understand some of my fundamentalist brethren going to the extreme. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. I know what they're trying to do, and I hope you understand what I'm saying. What they're trying to do is set their crowd apart from the outside crowd. But in doing so, they've swung the pendulum so far right that they've become nuts. But I understand, in theory, what they're trying to do. But then they take that and they make it a doctrine and say, unless your dress is down to your toes, ladies, and up to your bottom lip, then you're not holy and you're not righteous. And the same goes for men, you know. The men have got to wear a dress all the way down to their toes and all the way up to their top lip. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, but it's true. I understand what they're doing in theory, but it's become a heresy, frankly, in legalistic terms. But we have indeed forgotten how to blush. The whole idea of becoming flushed in the face is a reaction of the emotions that sense embarrassment. Haven't you when you get embarrassed and you become flushed in the face, you can actually feel the toxic change within you. It'll emanate here in the face, and you're like, oh, look at, you're definitely embarrassed. Red in the face. The change like that doesn't happen anymore. We have allowed so much into this head and allowed so much through the eye gate that frankly nothing really shocks us anymore. And if it was the case during Jeremiah's day, I wonder how much so it is today. Our sin has reproached us as a nation. Our pride in our sin, under the guise of tolerance, has reproached us as a nation. However, Christian, we are not exempt from this reproach. We as Bible-believing Christians are a part of this nation who is now scoffing at God and His ways. And we are not excluded from His immediate wrath. I know a lot of people like to say that we're going to get called out of here, and I understand all that, and I understand the rapture, but what I'm saying is before then, we're going to be a part of some sort of immediate wrath. I believe that. Let me give you an example. There's a Bible verse in the book of Proverbs, in the book of Psalms, I believe it is, where it says, I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. But yet, in Luke chapter 16, Lazarus is begging for bread. You say, what's that a picture of? The nation of Israel turning their back against God. And even the believers get in on the judgment. You say, how do I know Lazarus is a believer? Because of the end of the chapter where he ends up. I know he's a believer. But the fact is, you say, well, it says the righteous will never be forsaken, nor a seed begging for bread. Listen, it didn't say that under the guise of the wrath of God that it would not occur. Listen, man, God is just as distraught with how the Christian man and woman is not pushing back enough and wondering where are the real men and the real women in Christianity.